Chard'a. Come on, baby. Give Chard'a a hand as she comes. Come on, family. I like these t-shirts. Come on, family. Brittany, I done called your name more than once anyway, so you might as well come on up here.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month, so I just want to give you guys a little bit about sickle cell this month. So as you know, sickle cell is an inherited blood disorder, and it comes from two parents having the sickle cell trait. So myself and Darian's dad both carry the trait. So it was a 25% chance that we'll have a child with sickle cell. And of course, Darian was at 25%. So some of the things about sickle cell. Sickle cell is when you have crescent-shaped red blood cells. Normal red blood cells are circular in shape, and they carry oxygen really well. And they're very flexible and squishy and able to travel through the veins very well, even the smallest veins that we have. So with Darian cells, since they're crescent shaped and he produced those a lot, they sometimes get stuck in his blood vessels. And when they get stuck, they're also sticky, so they clump together as they travel through the blood vessels, which causes pain. Now think about all the places that we have blood vessels. We have them all over our body. So that means wherever he's having a crisis, that's where the pain can start. So he can have a crisis in his brain, which puts him at risk for stroke. He can have a crisis in his heart attack. He can have crisis in his kidneys, which he's had before, and that's one of the reasons why he's on blood pressure medicine right now, because he has papillary necrosis of the kidneys. So when those blood cells traveled there and got stuck, it damaged some of his tissues, so he doesn't perfuse as well. Let me see. He also had a sickle cell crisis in his eyes, which could have caused him to go blind, but by the grace of God, it didn't. So he's been suffering with this, I know, since birth, but his first crisis started at 6 months. And he did go through a period where his crises were consistent. And when I say consistent, we was in the hospital every week for 6 years. So just imagine watching your child suffer through crisis for 6 years in pain, and there's nothing you can do about it. So some of the things that we do when we go to the hospital is they start IV infusions of water, also morphine. And sometimes if the morphine's not cutting it, of course they move up a notch to Dilaudid, and Dilaudid is 1,000 times stronger than morphine. So just imagine that amount of pain. Sickle cell is predominantly a Black disease. It affects a lot of people of African descent, but it also affects others. So Indians, Hispanics, and people of Mediterranean descent can also get sickle cell disease. And one of the stigmas around sickle cell disease is that it's contagious. Now, I just explained that it's not contagious at all. So we had that whole issue before too, when people found out, oh, he has sickle cell disease, and they immediately went like this. They didn't want to be around him. Kind of like in the Bible with the people with the leprosy. And nobody wanted to touch them. So sometimes he had gotten that too. But I also want him to get up and speak about some of the things he's overcome. Come on, Papa. Come on.
Tell the goodness of God.
Come on, Papa. Whatever you want to say. It's okay.
You got this, Papa. You got this.
Yes,
You got
yes.
this.
What do you want to say about that? I picked the topic. First of all, I want to thank God for getting me through all my hospital hits. I done been to the hospital over 100 times. And every time, God got me through it.
Yes. Come by your testimony.
I done been through 3 surgeries and 1 procedure. God got me through all of it.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Testify, baby. Testify.
I had got COVID 2 times, and then I had a serious ICU visit where it damaged my lungs.
Hallelujah, Jesus. Oh, Lord, bless your name, God. Hallelujah. Thank you, God. Thank you. Hallelujah. Thank you, God. Thank you.
I've had pulmonary embolism and blood clots where I have been to ICU. It wasn't clear that I was gonna make it or not. So I had to get rushed to emergency surgery. Thank God I got through that. And then I was in ICU for a month actually. Yeah. I can't really remember anything that happened. I just want to thank God that He got me through that.
Yes.
And I'm well and standing here right now.
Yes.
To stand up and say anything, because without these people, I don't know, Lord. I just don't know. This has been my support system. My parents, my mom, my dad, my sisters, my brother-in-law. Like, they kept me going. They gave me strength when I couldn't pray for myself. So.
God is with you, Papa. You got a big mouth.
Anytime Chard'a call her mother, sisters, father, uncle, we right there.
Yes.
We called the 5 fam. She called us. She's like, Papa in ICU. Papa had a crisis. And it's funny because this last one he went through, we didn't think he was gonna make it. She called her dad. She didn't call me because she knew I had to get up in like 2 more minutes to go to work. And so he was getting ready. I'm like, it's 5 o'clock. It's 4:40. What are you doing? And he looked. He said, Papa in hospital. I said, for what? He said, but he in ICU this time. So he was in the bathroom, getting ready to put his head on. I was at Parkland. And he said, Chard'a said, my mom, she said, your mama gone. So she looked up, she said, my mama here. Your dad, and he said, no, she ain't there just that quick. She said, my mama's right here in ICU.
Wow.
And when I got to ICU, she like, Mama, how did you make it that fast? I said, girl, don't worry about it. And I said, if I got a ticket or whatever, somebody pay, I'm not paying. And so when I got there, the lady looked at me, she said, but she just called her dad. And, where you live at? I said, Mesquite. And she looked at me and I looked at her and I said, honey, this is emergency. Okay. And then when I first came up and the lady said, what's your name? And I gave my name. She said, well, it's 2 people back there. You can't go up there. I said, ma'am. I said, God forgive me. I said, well, let me tell you something. That's my grandchild. Either I'm going to jail or you're not going to be sitting in that seat. So they called security guard. And the security guard came. He said, let her go through. I said, I don't care, but I'm going through them doors. I said, you better hope don't nobody come out them door because I'm going right in. And she looked at me and she said, security, I said, call him. So he came up, he said, ma'am, let her through. He didn't ask no question. I said, thank you, sir. And so I went back there and I said, they had already took her. And she was just crying. I said, Chard'a, you know God for yourself. I said, stop that crying, girl. And she looked at me like, okay. Well, since she said it, I know. And I said, he gonna be all right. He gonna be all right. And then I called Pam. Pam got the praying. I called Pastor Noah. Everybody got the praying. I know you was already out the door walking. And so, and then I called Brittany. And I said, Brittany said, I'm on my way. She said, Mom, you going to work? I said, girl, when I get through with her, then I go to work. And then I got through making sure he was okay. And Shonda said, he going to be okay. And I said, just call me. And so I took off work the next day and stayed all night up there with him. And then he was just talking all outside of his head. And he was like, Grandma, I'm coming. And I jumped up. And I said, Grandma? I said, in the name of Jesus. I said, you going to be okay? I said, Grandma in heaven. He said, I see her. He said, she telling me to come on. And I looked up, I said, no, I'm going to down. Because I'm here by myself. Everybody's at home, Chard'a at home, and I'm here by myself. And he came through. He said, Granny, when you get her? And I looked up, I said, I've been here. I said, just go on back to sleep. And so I went on back over here and started praying. I said, no, not now.
My God.
Tickets.
I don't know, I don't have anything to say. I just be there every step of the way.
Oh, yes.
When he went to ICU, my daddy called me, and I was like, what's going on? Well, Chard'a called, but I was asleep. I work 2 jobs, I'm tired. So I was asleep, and then when I woke up, I seen my daddy call, and I seen Chard'a call, so I called my daddy. He was like, Papa in ICU. And I was like, what? You ain't got to tell me twice. I'm right. And he was like, he don't like to drive. So he came pick me up. Then he gonna say, you want to drive? What? And we, like her, I got there, but when we got there, they told us we couldn't go up either. But I didn't leave. I went to, I guess, the lobby, and I sat there. And then finally, they let us up about 8 o'clock, and we went out there about, 3 in the morning? So me and Ray just sat there, and then we finally got to go up. But I don't like to see Papa like that. So that hurt my feelings. So I wouldn't stay in the room, but I wasn't trying to be mean not to stay in the room, but I don't like to see him like that. So I just went in a dark room by myself, and I noticed my mama noticed I was gone for a long time, and I was sitting there praying, because I was like, oh Lord, no, not today. But we get through it. We get through it. I mean, he got his rough days. He got his good days. When he get off that morphine, he be mean to me, but it's okay. And I'm like the nicest person to him. I don't know why he did that. Take all my money. We argue every day. But he's like my best friend, though. We just don't know he's my broke best friend. But I'm just happy that God, got all of us, and especially him, and, everybody in here as well. But, we gonna get through it. Like, we've been getting through it, we gonna get through it.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
So pretty much touched on the last ICU visit. That visit probably was the scariest visit that we done had thus far, because this visit almost claimed his life. And like they said, I was so distraught when we found out he had blood clots, because we had been in the hospital already for 3 days and they didn't catch it. They didn't catch it. It wasn't until we switched nurses, and the nurses noticed that Darian was in a delirium state. And he was so delirious, and he didn't urinate as well, so she just like, something's not right. So she called the charge nurse and a doctor, and the doctor came down. They did additional testing. We went down for CTs and MRIs, and we found 2 huge pulmonary embolisms on his lungs. So, of course, doctors like to sugarcoat things, but me, being who I am, because I'm also a nursing student, so I already knew what it was. So it was serious. It was so serious, and we were immediately taken to ICU. And I think Jacob was there at that visit also, and I'm pretty sure that freaked him out. But I remember telling God, like, no, like, this can't happen. And why now? And I just remember just asking him just to cover him and to keep him, because he's kept him so many times before. And my cousin Misha, I'm pretty sure y'all know who she is. She works at Children. She came down and she was like, you know what, it's gonna be okay. You a praying person, you just have to believe. You have to believe. And she stayed there with me while they took Papa down for surgery. And then she was like, I'll be back. And in the time she was gone, God spoke to me. He said, don't you have faith?
Come on.
Don't you have faith? I done got him through so many things before. Don't you have faith? And then he was like, if you have faith, then why worry? So immediately the worry just went away. Immediately, and I was able to sleep during his surgery because I let it go and I let God. So when they came back up, the doctor was like, it was success. We never seen, and then his recovery was so fast. He started to recover so fast, and they kept saying, we have never seen anybody suffer with pulmonary embolisms and then recover so fast.
My God.
So the next day, his lungs started to heal. The next day, his kidney started to recover. The next day, his heart started to regulate itself. So God was just working that thing out, and I was just watching. And I was just like, and I was thanking God. And every day, every morning I woke up, he gave me a new song. He gave me a new song. He deposited that song in my head to let me know, look, I'm always here. I'm always looking out. And I got him. And I had to remind God. You remember how the Bible talks about, like, remind him of the things that he promised. And I reminded him, like, you told me he has a hope in the future. Jeremiah 29:11. So I just kept repeating that over and over to him. But that's what got me through. But I just thank y'all. I thank all of y'all. I thank this church. I thank you, First Lady and Pastor, for everything that you've done. I thank all you guys for always supporting him. And I thank you, Brittany, too. My mom wanted me to point that out. All right, thank you, guys.